Before we get into the new business that you've developed, you mentioned briefly that you say you come from a land of blocked writers. I would love to hear about that.
Yes. I come from the tribe of blocked writers. At the age of 3, I knew I was meant to write, and I've spent a long time learning how to write, and would always meet this block where I couldn't finish things, and I couldn't bring things to completion. I would write brilliant first acts and have visions of the end, but couldn't get the whole thing to work together. So I developed a process to break through that and basically get people out of their head and into their genius. And it's the whole idea of really understanding that if you really want to write, that internal guide will take you, but you have to stop thinking so that the guide takes over. And it's a process of of letting go of perfection, letting go of needing to know, and exploring random acts of genius by just taking whatever comes to you and believing that the idea that you have is enough to go forward.
Yeah, isn't that something that makes a writer is the person that just is overthinking everything, overanalyzing, like this analysis paralysis that a lot of people go through?
Yeah, and especially when you're writing for a living or writing because you want to create a living, there tends to have a place where writers thinking that they need to meet the marketplace. I need to write something that'll sell. I need to write something that will be great. And if you think about it, the way artistry works, the way writing really works, is that you're the conduit and you're the toolbox. And if you can trust that what you have and what you know is enough to finish a story, and you allow, like having a toolbox. So there's a toolbox for suspense. There's a toolbox for creating love. There's a toolbox for creating a big finish or creating that page turner. There's actual tools for that. So you can learn the tools, but the story itself is part of you, and the moments are part of you. And the big thing is realizing that stories in general are not plot. We think they're plot, but they're not. They're emotions. They're moments that generate emotion. So if you become more concerned with the things inside you that feel like they're emotional, and you get those emotions on the page or in a scene, then you can find ways to create the internal logic of a story to bring them together. So, so it's just shifting from plot into emotion, really.
Going back to when you were 3, I want to hear about what it was where you knew that you were meant to be a writer. What was it you were doing at 3? That's fascinating.
My mother was an orphan, and she had a photographic memory, and she would recount these stories of her orphanage experience. And I really believed that we were all meant to just remember everything and to tell these stories to other people. And so I would remember, I would go back and remember, well, what was I doing a year ago in school? What was I doing a week ago in school? Or who said to me at what time, what was I saying or doing? And I started sort of telling myself my own story and thinking, in the future, I will tell people these stories that I'm thinking myself as a child. And then I loved reading, and I loved imagining other worlds and putting myself in other worlds. And so that was just always, and then from a storyteller, I became fascinated by why stories affect us. Why am I in terms of endearment and I'm just weeping? How is it that something I'm seeing from people I don't know is making me cry? And so I just became really fascinated at the mechanics of creating emotion and creating emotion in stories.
So when you say overthinking and sort of it, is it almost like it has its roots in meditation where you're turning off the mind in some sense?
You are. And so this process that I've developed, because you need guideposts, right? And it's kind of, the way I think about it is like this. If you're telling a story, you need to know the genre. You need to know what you want to create, what feeling you want to generate. And that genre, that destination, is like saying, I want to go to Phoenix, right? That's your guidepost. I'm going to Phoenix, I'm telling a love story. Now, how you get to Phoenix could have a number of different ways. And so what you have to think about is, well, along this route, where do I want to stop? Where are my scenes? Well, maybe Palm Springs, maybe Joshua Tree, maybe we want to take a big detour down to Baja, right? You can do that, but you know you're getting to Phoenix. And so the way I think about story is to give you those guideposts of the act structure, the end of the first act, the midpoint, the end of the second act, the climax. So those are your guideposts, like saying I'm going to hit Palm Springs and Joshua Tree and Baja. And then and you can create the visuals, you can create you can create the scenes around those places because you know you got to get there. But once you know those guideposts, you know there's a journey to those places. And you can relax in knowing that the journey has an organic flow and you don't have to force it. And you can relax and let your meditative mind take over how you get there. Because you know you're going to stop in Palm Springs and have a wonderful experience. You know you're going to stop in Joshua Tree and have a wonderful experience. And then ultimately you'll get to Phoenix, which is your climax, and you can imagine what's going to happen there. So it's kind of releasing your mind from needing to know how you get there, and instead just imagining wonderful destinations along the journey. I don't know if that's clear at all, but I'm trying to think of another way to say it. When you're looking to tell a story, there's an emotion that you want to create. There's two skills to learn. One is the means of generating emotion, whether it's generating how somebody's going to cry in a love story or how to create suspense in a thriller. And then there's the story you want to tell. And that story can be very organic. It can be really who you are. And the tools of genre and the tools of storytelling allow you to take the internal you and make it into something that an audience will want to see. But you don't have to control it to get there. You can do it in a more organic way.
In terms of getting people out of their heads, do you have other exercises that are maybe even physical in nature? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, like sometimes I have trouble falling asleep, and it just like this repetitive thoughts that are in my brain, and I think a lot of people that overthink things are like that. Are there exercises to get people out of that? Because sometimes you have to really literally get yourself out of a physical place and go somewhere else.
Yes. First, you should appreciate the value of daydreaming. Daydreaming without a purpose is, and imagining other worlds actually does scientifically stimulate your brain and relax you. Physical exercise, always important. Taking a walk around the building, getting your body moving, getting your endorphins moving. Some people actually need really heavy endorphin push to get out of that hamster brain and into a meditative space. For a lot of people, meditation is really hard because you let your worried mind take over. So finding a simple exercise like literally saying to yourself, in, breath, out, breath, and allowing just your own voice of in, out can calm you down. But the other thing is belief. When you believe that you have to get somewhere or you have to achieve something, it's much harder to get there. If you believe that who you are right now, what you're writing right now, is actually destined to come in the world, and you can just relax and let it come, and the thing that you're going to write next is the perfect sentence, and the next word is the perfect sentence. And even if you're just writing, I don't know what I'm writing, I don't know what I'm writing, I'm waiting for something inspiring to come to me, I'll just wait and keep typing, And then you start enjoying the feeling of typing. Start enjoying the feeling of your fingers. Start enjoying a great word. Pick a surprising word. And I promise you, eventually, if you just keep typing, that next idea will come, and the next idea will come. And if you don't judge it, and you allow the next thing to come, there will be a progression that will take you forward. Being a writer actually requires a number of different skills. And when you're not good at one of the skills, it can make you think you're not good at any of them. And that is one of the reasons that hamster brain occurs. So one thing is simply the use of language. If English is not your first language, or you tend to write awkwardly, sometimes you think you're not a good writer because your word choice is bad. But that's one skill that you can work on, like literally like a dictionary skill, like choosing great vocabulary and choosing great imagery, right? That's one skill. Second skill is taking a character through a journey. It's actually understanding the psychology of people and understanding if I'm think I'm ugly, how do I walk through the world? How does a character overcome the belief that I'm ugly, right? And that's actually an understanding of people and understanding of psychology. And you want to know that so you can create characters that are deep and interesting, and you want to be a great observer of your friends, of your parents, of all the people who annoy you, right? So that you can document who they are, but also understand them from an interesting perspective. That's a different skill. Then there's another skill, which is, especially for filmmaking, is being able to show, not tell. Being able to ground all of your scenes in moments that are visual, that give all the information you want to give, but don't have it me tell you, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, right? And the last one, which is probably the most important one, and very difficult for people to do, is to really speak from your authentic voice. And we want so much as writers to be seen and to be heard, and we know that we have something to say, and that desire, that longing, can pull us out of ourselves. And when you get pulled out of yourself, then you're trying to imitate Breaking Bad, you're trying to imitate Scandal, you're trying to imitate some movie that you love. And you've lost your sense of what it is that you're bringing to the world, what you've seen in the world. So finding that authentic voice and saying, what I know is valuable, what I see is valuable, the way I'm going to show it is valuable, is a skill in itself. And it's the practice of actually affirming your unique vision. Like being able to go into a Starbucks even and saying, the way I order my Starbucks, the way I like my pasta, the way I like to cross the street, the way I like to drive is unique and valuable. And the more you anchor into the sense of your own value and the importance of your voice in the world, the more powerful that voice is going to be. Because the other things I described are literally like techniques that you can practice, but this other technique of actually affirming your own authentic voice is probably the most important one.
So how can someone know whether they've gotten lost in other voices and are trying to emulate another show, another writer? Because maybe they think, oh yeah, this is me too, but really they're copying True Blood, or they're you know, it's almost like the girl in high school who wants to be like the popular girl.
Yes.
And so she starts dressing like her and trying to do her hair like her, but really she's not being who she really needs to be. She's trying to be somebody who seems popular and wanted. Mm-hmm.
When, you know, we all want to be successful. And one of the ways we find success is to look at other people and say, oh, I like the way she looks, so I'm going to look like her. Or I like the way he writes, so I'm going to write like her. And you hear all these stories of like even Joan Didion, who copied Ernest Hemingway in order to find her voice. But what you want to do, but you know you're on the wrong track if you start feeling that anxiety that I could never be like her. that when I compare myself to his writing, I'm just really not, and you start feeling that sense of not good enough, not meeting something. And you start wanting to be seen. You can feel that pull of wanting to be seen like your idol, right? And that's the moment where, if you were talking about a physical look, you'd go get plastic surgery, right? So I could put her nose on my face, so I can put his words in my script or in my story. And so when you start feeling that, you have to recognize that you're walking away from yourself. You're walking away from yourself and trying to sit in somebody else's image. And if you do that, you will always be a shadow of someone else. The truth of who you are, the reason that you came to write, won't come out. It won't flourish. It's kind of like you'll be that plant that just doesn't get enough water and doesn't get enough sun. So it might bloom, but the flower will be small and the fruit will be bitter, right? And if you're really going to anchor in yourself, you have to believe that you are as brilliant as the person you want to be. And so you're going to appreciate how they shine, but you're not going to copy how they shine. You want to appreciate how strong they are in their voice, and you want to practice your own voice as loudly as you can. Now, the awkward thing is, you're going to practice that voice, and it's not going to be good, right? We're never good when we start playing the piano. We're never great when we start driving. We crash into things, right? It takes practice, but you have to hang on to the belief. So this is the disconnect. You have to know that even though you may not look good at what you're doing is not accomplishing the vision of what you want to accomplish ultimately. You have to believe that you're going to get there, just as you are. So it's hanging on to the tension of being not so good, an amateur, awkward, but believing that you're going to grow into something that will flourish and bloom, and you're going to have patience. And that's the most difficult thing, because when you're struggling and you want success and you know you're good, but it's not coming, there's a tendency to say, well, I'm on the wrong path. The universe doesn't want me to do this. I should go to that path. I should follow that path. Anchor in, this is where meditation becomes really important, and really knowing that there are stories inside of you that need to be told just the way you want to tell them, and having the patience to wait for them to bloom so that the timing is right, and that your timing is right as an artist and the timing is right in the marketplace.
I heard an interview with a writer, I'm not sure if it was Judy Blume the other day, it was someone on that level, and they said that they try not to read other writers while they're writing a book, because then their voice becomes like their favorite writers.
Absolutely.
And so, do you often see that though? That people are really copying other people and they don't even realize it, they just know, I love that, and so this is how I want it to sound.
You know, we definitely live in a culture, especially in the screenwriting world, where you're supposed to read as many scripts as you can to learn how to write, right? Read. But I believe strongly in bubbles. I believe you should put a big, magic, thick, plexi, silent bubble around you when you write. So that, and the other thing you put in your bubble is everything that you love. If you love, bubble gum and butterflies and unicorns, or if you love, 60s music or whatever it is, you have to surround yourself with the essence of you, and be careful of criticism. I'm a strong believer in not allowing any of the babies that you're writing to ever see the light of day. I've seen so many babies who've just been born as little scripts be told that they will never go to college and never grow up to be beautiful because someone didn't get them. And you think about projects now like Transcendence and, you think of projects like Transparent and Quirky Stories, Orange is the New Black, or where they're deeply personal and they would never they never live if the wrong person saw that story. And so be careful, and be careful of allowing criticism, be careful of allowing other voices. Surround yourself with the bubble that is authentically you, so you feel yourself, you taste yourself, you smell yourself, and you love that bubble. And what comes out of that will be so much more unique. And in this world of storytelling, uniqueness, authenticity, originality is what it breaks through. And so that's what you want. You want to take a big bath in you.
Defining who someone is. What if someone's not sure what they really, I remember like you'd make these boards where you'd cut out from magazines things that you like and things that are similar to you. Is it almost something like that where you...
I think we know more of who we are when we're 7 than we do when we're 27. And it's, we live in a world of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram where we're constantly bombarded with other people's experiences and other people's view of the world. And I think we need to be, as artists, be much more protective of what we allow in because of envy. Envy and the desire to live other people's lives and that competitive sense that maybe they're doing more than I am or not enough or I'm somehow not living the life I should live, dilutes your sense of yourself. And it also, now mind you, you need to go say, oh wow, Tahiti, I'd love to go to Tahiti, I'll put that on my bucket list. But I believe in a lot of practices of list making. And one of the lists that I always make is a list of 100 of things to do, be, and have. And in that list of 100, and it can be simple things like, I want to have coffee at the end of the Santa Monica Pier on a sunset with my boyfriend, right? But that list, you'll begin to see what you think is happiness, what you want to bring into your life is really unique. And it's not like anybody else's in conglomerate. And when those things start manifesting, because I also believe that when you write it down, it comes, you see more of yourself in your life. And so as a writer, as an artist, especially since so many of us are introverts, we live in our heads. And when you start making declarations to the universe, this is what I want to do, be, and have in my life, you naturally go look for those things to do, be, and have because you get excited by them. But the universe also starts delivering them, which creates more authenticity in yourself because you become more yourself because you're getting more of what you want to do, be, and have. So this collection of experiences reinforces that voice, and your attention to yourself and your desire to be yourself will also collect more energy into your authenticity.
So tell me about this list a little more. So it's 100 things?
100 things. Mm-hmm. I challenge all of you to make a list of 100, because 100 is a lot.
It is, yeah.
And it's 100 things to do, be, and have. And they can be grand and small. So it can be, I want a Cartier tank watch, right? That's to have. I want to ride an elephant in India. That's a do. To be, I want to be a big sister to somebody. I want to be the person who everyone turns to at a Halloween party, right? So it's imagining all the things that would really make you happy. And what's interesting about this exercise is you realize how little we think about what really makes us happy on the most micro levels. You think about, okay, I want to have, when you start reading, it changes your perspective of how you interact with the world when you have this 100 list. Because now, when you read the LA Magazine's top 10 restaurant lists, oh, well, there's 10 restaurants. I got to put that on my list. I want to eat the octopus at Il Cugini. I want to taste the sushi at, fancy sushi place. So this collection you begin to see your inner world in an external place. And that helps you see yourself.
Do we show this list to others? Or is this a personal list that we just keep to ourselves?
It's best to keep it personal. I'm a big believer in not inviting opinions. Opinions are wonderful, and you have to deal with them when you go pitch your story and you go out into the marketplace. But you should wait until your bubble of you-ness, of your authenticity, is so strong that other people's opinions bounce off your bubble. And you can hang on to this world and allow people to see you because it's transparent and you can see the world outside, but nothing touches you. And if you can live in this world where you are fully yourself, creating all kinds of fantastic things from the land that gives you joy, and people can criticize you and tell you you suck, tell you you'll never succeed, and you float around like, I have no idea what you're talking about, you won. And then the greatest thing is when you start crossing things off your list.
Right.
And you're like, wow, I didn't know where that, for example, I wanted to, I wanted to go to Russia. I didn't know idea how I was going to get to Russia. And darn, I just came back from Russia. So things manifest, like you don't even know where they're coming from. But so we were talking about writer's block. What I've learned about this bubble, because I believe so strongly in it, is that so much of writer's block and so much of incomplete projects come from the inability to deal with other people's opinions. I am not a big fan of writers groups where you're giving opinions on everyone's projects. The ability to hang on to your own identity and the belief in the power of your own identity is so much more the path to success, the path to getting everything you want. When you start asking for other people's reflections on your work, and start asking for validation or direction, don't. Go back, inward. Find your core, find your strength. The time for feedback is when you feel so good about your project and you will be able to discern the good feedback from the bad feedback. You'll be able to hear, oh, this person's just talking about their own work, that they're reacting to something that's triggered them, or they're trying to give me their personal opinion because they feel strongly about something that I've written, but it doesn't work for my story, right? There's a power that when you come into the marketplace and you're ready for feedback, that you're able to say, that's good feedback. Oh, that makes my story better. Oh, I can see how that's a great twist. Or even, I may not agree with them, but I can see how their opinion would make my story different, and I might go there. So it's this centeredness that you want to go out in the marketplace with. And until you have that centeredness, you're going to be whipped around like again, that hamster in a little hamster wheel, trying to chase people's approval. And it's you can't succeed that way, and it'll demoralize you.
So we often hear someone say, hey, I just finished a second draft of something. Can I send it to you for your review, or even a short film? Do you recommend people do that? Because at some point we need to see it from another set of eyes, because our own are very biased to what we do.
We all need feedback. Peter, my partner of many years, has always given me great feedback. But the difference is how you stand within the feedback. So if the desire for feedback comes from wanting someone to fix what you have, or wanting someone to approve of you, or wanting someone to validate that you're talented, or validate that you're going to succeed, or validate that you have a good idea, you're asking for trouble. It's so much more valuable if you can imagine that what you write and what you create is like a child. And in its wholeness, it has unity and strength and value in the world. Now, in the same way, you would not look at a toddler and deem it that it's going to, you will never make money in banking. Sit down, go back to go back to where you came from. You never do that. You have to appreciate that that child is going to learn things, and you're going to want to teach it Spanish, or you're going to want to have it develop its talents. But you have to approach it as if it has value in itself. If you start rearranging the elements of the story in a way that destroys the wholeness of the child you've just birthed, you're going to be frustrated and go back to square one. I've just seen so many writers, because we both teach storytelling, really be willing to rearrange anything because somebody with authority has told them to. And even though that person with authority may be very smart, they may be a studio executive, they may be a brilliant story coach, they may be a producer, you're still the guide of this child that you've created. And if you don't know your own work and your own path for this and believe in it as it is, you could end up in development hell for another 5 years trying to please someone who doesn't really know what they want, because they're chasing the marketplace. They're not really interested in the integrity of your work. So it's a balance, but it absolutely comes first and foremost with the strong core of knowing how good you are, how unique your voice is, and the ability to hold your center.
Let's say you have a bubble around you and you know who you are, and then the bubble gets popped.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Oh, it will.
Oh, okay.
It will.
It'll get popped.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Bubbles get popped because, and it comes from disappointment, right? Most often, you are this close to your most perfect imagined deal with a book or with a producer, and and you can taste it, and you're already buying your house in Malibu. You're so excited because all of your dreams have come through. It's on your list, and then something falls apart. And that's the moment where every story that you've ever told yourself or anyone's ever told you about how you're not going to succeed comes ringing. And it's this echoing voice that you're afraid that you're manifesting, and proof that, again, the universe hates me. That is going to happen. That is going to happen. It's recognizing that obstacles are external, and there's a difference between what happens to you in the world and your willingness to believe in yourself over the external. And it's not, I'm not somebody who believes in like karma. Well, you somehow deserve this, or you needed this, right? But I do believe that the stronger that core is that allows you to know who you are and know what value you bring to the world, the easier it is to overcome that. The shorter time your disappointment gets. And the key is how you frame the story. This is the most important thing. How you frame the story of your disappointments. So if you truly believe, as I do, that the story is never over until the ending is happy. So when that bubble is burst, I've just hit the end of the third act. It's the moment where the heroes lost everything. The worst thing that could possibly happen has happened. And I know the next thing that happens, the next scene, is the hero pulls himself together and figures out how to overcome it. And so it's always my choice. Is this story gonna end sooner or later? And the sooner I pull myself together and go have the showdown with the villain, which is internally in myself, my own self-doubt, the sooner I know this story's gonna end happily.
Do you have some rituals you do to kind of like, okay, I get 24 hours to grieve, or I get 48 hours or a week, and then now back on up?
I do something that's probably really counterintuitive, which is that I know that every negative story that I'm telling myself holds it longer. So the faster I can first tell myself, this is a negative story I'm telling myself, right? That's the first thing I say. The reason that I'm crying is because I'm telling myself a really crappy story. And at the moment, I'm believing it. And that sucks. 2, I really wish I could stop believing this crappy story. 3, I'm not there yet, but soon I'll stop believing this crappy story. 4, well, it's not as crappy as it was yesterday, so I must be getting better, but I still hate this crappy story. So it's just this progression of distancing myself from the crappy story. The crappy story is not me. It's not truth. It's not reality. And as storytellers, we all know how powerful stories are. And the most powerful story is the story I'm telling myself. And as soon as I realize that this is just a story I'm telling myself, and if I just told myself the story that, oh my gosh, I just ended the third act, I'm so close to the end and the happy ending, then I would get excited. And I would get over that crappy story sooner. And the sooner I can get to that, the better it goes. So I'm not a big believer I'm a believer in the shortest amount of wallowing as possible. And if I can't get there, at least I can say, at least I know this is a story and not real. The reason you tell stories is so that we can learn to be the hero of our own lives. Then any obstacle that you face, you decide what part of the story we're in yet. We are, you, in the same way that you write what your characters are going to do and how your characters are going to react, you can do that for yourself. You can have a really crappy meeting with a studio executive, and you can either choose to say, see, I wasn't meant to do this, or, oh, this is the moment where the hero decides they're going to learn how to pitch, and they have a goal, and they go off and find friends and mentors, and but know very well there'll be more twists and turns coming, but that's part of the fun of the journey. So it's kind of like, it's appreciating this too. The story would be no fun if there weren't twists and turns. It's so much more fun to get your goal if it looked like you never were going to get it. The joy is so much sweeter on the other side of that. And so if you have a really huge disappointment, you should just know that when you do win, it's going to feel so good.
Storymaker, what is that?
Storymaker was born out of the land of blocked writers, and it's a 90-minute process that gives you prompts, basically, to develop a character-driven story based on anything. You could take pickles, airplanes, hotel, and because we live in stories, we watch stories, we're so immersed in storytelling, it's in our DNA. And if you can stop thinking and just allow your reaction to go forward, you will develop a story. I'm not saying it'll be a great story, but it'll be a story. And it'll have a beginning, middle, end, and it'll have characters who change, and dilemmas that'll be interesting, and a genre that that could attract an audience. But these simple prompts, when you start just allowing your first reaction to come forward, you'll start to feel how powerful your internal storytelling clock is, and have much more confidence in it. And so that's the reason that I came up with this process. Because the other thing is, as writers, we practice dialogue, we practice scenes, right? We practice all these things, but no one practices the art of telling an entire story. So if I can get you in 90 minutes to tell an entire story, beginning, middle, and end, good or bad, we don't know, but beginning, middle, and end, in 90 minutes, you could do that once a week, which means you could have 52 stories at the end of a year. And how many good stories do you think you'd have if you had 52 stories every year? Probably more than you have now. And you would also be building an incredible muscle of developing ideas, of being able to solve story problems, of knowing how characters change, of knowing your genres, about knowing your ups and downs of the rhythm of a story, and it would just become part of you, and you wouldn't even have to think about it. And so that's my goal for writers, to really learn this as a dance, like you would learn the tango, and learn to dance this story without even thinking.
For the last year, what have you been up to?
For the last year, I took off a year from from teaching writing, and I've been focusing on my own writing. And the other thing I've been doing is living. This list, do, be, and have, 100 things of do, be, and have. What I've learned is when you relax, let me rephrase this. I spent a lot of my life wanting something that came very slowly. Wanting to be the successful writer, wanting to be a successful teacher, wanting things. And the process of wanting is actually a very constrained emotion. It limits things, right? If you think about the abundance of the universe and this huge funnel of amazingness, and then wanting makes it very narrow. It actually makes things come much, much slower. And so last year I decided that I would stop wanting. I would just allow whatever to happen, but I was going to kind of clear my slate. And so I cleared my slate of teaching and cleared my slate so that I could just both live and see what happened. Like, what if I stopped wanting to be a writer? What if I stopped wanting to be a teacher? What would happen, right? And so I did this experiment. And a couple things happened. On my list of 100 things to do, be, and have, those things just started coming really quickly. So in the last year, I've had the most remarkable year of travel, concerts and crazy things. And I've also relaxed into knowing that there is great timing. And my confidence for both the ideas that I have and their development has softened into this sense of knowing that I'm on the right path at the right time, and that I don't have to muscle it for it to occur. And so it's almost like I've taken a huge exhale, and all of my muscles have just softened, and I am getting it's much easier to write. It's much easier to be happy as I write. It's much easier to believe that what I write is going to land in the perfect place. And I don't have that tug of wanting and not getting. So from that place, just have this great sense of wanting to teach people things that I've learned, and to have people, to be able to give other people the gift of exploding their writing. There's the other thing about being a teacher sometimes is that you spend a lot of time nurturing other people, but when your well is not full, then it's much harder to give what they need, right? And I've had this year of really filling my well and experiencing life and getting so many things on my list of do, be, and have, that now I feel like I can give people so much more energy and so much more attention and so much more insight into how to be creative and how to manifest their dreams and how to manifest the life that they want. Because I feel like I've done that. I've done some great things, and I can show you how to do that too.
That must have been quite scary, though, because I get the sense that everybody in LA is driven. It seems like they wouldn't stay in the city sometimes, probably, if they wouldn't be so set on accomplishing certain things. But it sounds like that's a very scary thing to do. If you've been driven and want things and to just let it go and walk away from that for a little bit. How was that?
It is. I do think we have to be willing, that it's important to figure out why you want something. And if you're wanting something because your father told you you were meant to do it, or not meant to do it, right? You're doing out of a sense of I'm going to show you, right? And it goes back to that idea of knowing who you are, and appreciating that the people who are really great writers live. And if you're stuck in a world of struggle, you're not living. And you don't remember who you are because you've defined your life as struggle. And trust me, that's not who you are. Your life is so much bigger. And so for me, it was getting out of this Hollywood, Los Angeles, I've got to drive this car and live this place and have my life look a particular way to be valued. And instead say, what if I were just happy? What would that look like? Forget being the successful super A-list writer. What would happy look like? And so I chased happy. And in chasing happy, I feel like I can do anything. And that's just so much more fun than struggling.
You're now entering back into writing. It's Story Expo 2015. So are you able to take more of, like you said, this sort of like this relaxing, this deep breath, because you have kind of crossed those things off on that list? And what's that like to kind of come back? It almost feels like you're entering the mainstream again or something. I don't know.
I'm entering the mainstream, but I'm also entering the mainstream with this larger knowledge of how diverse the marketplace is. I just met with a Sony executive from Russia who's just selling things to Turkey. I'm talking to people who need content on every level. And so I have a really deep appreciation of how much content is needed in the world, how many stories are needed in the world. And from this place of being kind of full of my own happy, I'm very confident that both my stories will find a home and the people that I work with have stories that will find a home. And once you take out the sense of struggle and you begin seeing how expansive this marketplace is, how expansive the need for content is, and how much really the whole world is calling for you, then, and I feel like I can share that with the people that I work with, to really give them a very strong sense that they can relax because their work is needed and wanted in the world. And I know this, and I know this because I've relaxed enough to see it.
There's a book called, I think, Meditations for Women Who Do Too Much. Ann Wilson Schaaf, I think, wrote it. And it's about that whole being driven, and it's funny because a boss that I had actually gave it to me, and it was her book. And so, how do you relax into that when you maybe start to see your haunches getting up, when it's like, oh, I see that, and I want that, and then you're like, wait a minute, I'm going to come back to the place of just maybe not wanting. Are there things to bring you back?
Well, first you have to know that your wanting is just the sign that the universe wants to give it to you. Straight up. So you can relax. You can want it. It's kind of like knowing that you're wanting Christmas to come. Well, Christmas is coming. You don't have to do anything to get it, right? So that wanting is the sign that it's coming. Now, you may not know how it's coming, and that's where the hamster wheel comes in, because we think we have to do it all ourselves. And that's why I suggest the list of do, be, and have, because I'm telling you, the list of do, be, and have generates it. And the other thing that I do very strongly is a letter to the universe. And I just came back from Burning Man, and that was my project. Because 4 years ago, I wrote a letter to the universe, and I promise you, every single thing on that letter came true. And the technique is basically being able to feel what's coming without needing to know how it's coming. So if, for example, you want an amazing writing career, why do you want that writing career? Well, I want to be famous, I want to, like, what's the experience of your day-to-day life that feels so good to you being a writer? And if you can get to that, if I said, okay, well, I want to be able to get up in the morning and have my cup of tea and not have a day job. It's just me and writing, and I have a beautiful desk, and what am I looking at? Well, I have a window with a garden, and I can see, well, what time is it in the morning? Oh, it's 7 in the morning. Okay, so you're starting your day at 7, and so if I can get somebody, or if I can get somebody to talk about what they love about the idea of being a full-time writer, and feel it, feel the tea in your hands, feel the sense of fingers on the keyboard. Feel what it feels like to allow the ideas to come. Feel at the end of the day how much you've written. Feel what it feels like. What do you do? Do you work until 2? Do you work? So really feel the day. If I can, and feel, okay, so then what happens? So I want to feel what it feels like to be in a bookstore and see somebody picking up my book. I want to feel what it feels like to stand in front of people and read, right? And the more you anchor into the why, the experience, the sense of being in this future life, and then begin to see yourself as realizing that that life is true. It's coming, and that's why you can feel it. Then you just have to follow your instincts, and it will come. It will come. And you'll be amazed. It will come. So for that woman who's getting sucked into, how do I get there? And do I need to network? And Maybe I should go to that meeting. I would say spend more time feeling what your future life looks like, and the impulses that come to you, the ideas that come to you, will lead you to where you want to go. The path for everyone is very different, and the more connected you are to knowing what you want your life to look like, the more will come. There's a very simple metaphor in mountain biking, which is true in life. Where you look is where you go. In mountain biking, when you're on a single track, if you look up, you go up. I don't care how small that track is, you keep looking up. The bike will stay on that road, this wide. But if you look down, you will go down. So the more you look at, I don't have what I want, I don't know how to get there, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know if I need to talk to that person, the more you'll get that. The more you say, I know something's going to guide me there, I know my ideas are good, I know they're getting better, I know my path will work, I'm just going to be patient for it, the more that you'll get that.
So look up.
Look up. Look up and relax. It's knowing that when you look up, the whole energy of your body and the connection to the earth keeps you on a straight path. It's the physical, and it's also how you manifest what you want in life.